Hey guys, okay, this is a review of last night's step one. Just a lot of people weren't there, didn't get it, and I want to put it online anyway, so I want to go through a couple of things of what we actually went through, and I want to make sure you can follow through and get to the next meeting being all prepared. You won't have this book yet, but I will give it to you when you get there. You'll need to do some work in it, but it's fine, it's no big deal. So this is a small book. It's called Life Recovery. Our group's called UnChained. UnChained just means trying to take the chains off your life. I'm gonna call this the 12 step to be a better leader. But what it really is it's 12 steps to become more clean, more free, more understanding of how to make good decisions and how to move through your life in a way that's unchained, unweighted, and free and clear. So this is, don't make no mistake about it, this is a 12-step recovery group, and I don't care if you're a raging addict with crazy stories that will blow us all away. That's awesome, bring them. And I don't care if you are just a person that struggles with anger, or which is bad enough, guys, or somebody that just wants to get better at relationships, or maybe you just want to make more clear-minded decisions, and maybe you question yourself all the time. Maybe your addiction is to online social media. Maybe whatever it might be, doesn't matter. If you struggle with relationships, if you want to get better at that, or if you don't struggle with anything and you just want to keep yourself moving in the right direction, you're at the right place. So the 12 steps, the first one we're going to go over is we admit that we are powerless over our problems and that we live and our lives have become unmanageable. Before I get into that, I'm going to go over some of the house rules just for a group, and make sure that when you come next time, you'll be able to get right into the group, and we won't have to continue to we won't have to go over these with you again. So every meeting, we've got to remind ourselves of the basic group guidelines. We need to be respectful of confidentiality and anonymity of each person. So remember that whatever you hear in this meeting is shared with trust and confidence, that it will remain here, and you're going to honor that. Okay. Before sharing begins, we just want to make sure you guys understand what we do is we break out into men's groups and women's groups, and they're separate. And when we get into those groups, we want you to know that everyone's invited to share, but nobody's obligated to, ever. Please keep your sharing focused on recent experiences and events. Focus on your personal experience, strength, and hope. Limit to about 3 to 5 minutes so that we have time for everybody to be able to share, and wait for everybody to share before you share a second time, just to be respectful of everybody's time. Number 4 would be no crosstalk. Crosstalk occurs when individuals speak out of turn or interrupt one another. So just be cognizant of that. Don't do that. 5 would refrain from asking questions. Questions will be answered at the end of the meeting. So just refrain from asking questions during that time. And 6, probably for me, I would say this is the most important one. We're not here to advise or soothe or even solve other people's problems. When we can share what we have done to change our own behaviors, but not what we think somebody else needs to do. Okay, so keep those in mind when you come to the meeting next week. I'm going to read out of a couple of things. Like I said, the first chapter is first step that we're going to go through is admitting that we are powerless over our problems and that our lives can become or have become unmanageable. When I read through the book with these guys, there's a lot of things that came to mind. One of the things that when you read through this story, and I'm not going to read through the whole thing because you'll have the book and I want you to read through it, but it describes a guy that's had 17 years of partying and drinking. He kept a cold 12-pack in his trunk all the time. and then kind of didn't understand why his wife and his kids were distant from him, why things started to kind of go bad. And some of the things that stood out to me was that during his life, some of the consequences became pain, loneliness, aggravation, and that kind of became unbearable for him. Life with alcohol didn't seem worth continuing, where he started to become depressed, irritable, disgruntled. All of this, again, flows into his family. When he started to go to meetings with other people that maybe are experiencing the same thing, he came to the end of himself and started doing that. He said that he found people that not only were sober, but actually they were content, and that was something that was crazy for him to see. He felt like alcohol was the only way for him to deal with his problems, and I want to let you know that's not just alcohol. This is what's being portrayed here in the book, but drugs, alcohol, and again, any kind of behavior that is destructive to you in some way, where you're using it to numb yourself or deal with what you perceive to be problems in your life, instead of feeling it and moving through it with a group or community. Those are things that this book and these 12 steps are going to move you past. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not just alcohol. So when I say alcohol, it's because it's the example in here, but you can use your own word to describe what it is for you. And all of us tend to do something. So just be aware. Be aware of yourself enough to know that. What Barry learned was that powerlessness doesn't mean hopelessness. When he started going to these meetings, Barry learned that he was powerless over more than his alcohol, and that the consequences of his years of drinking were not magically removed. That actually he just started to be aware of and understand that the relationship with his wife fell apart because his drinking had caused her so much pain that the bond between them had been destroyed. Barry had to accept that his powerlessness over their responses, like his family's responses to him admitting his powerlessness over this, were not something that he could guide or direct either. He couldn't control. So he had to also accept that he was powerless over their responses to accept responsibility for his behaviors, that he had provoked them. So again, step one is, in this first chapter, starts with we admitted. We is a strong word. It's not I. I think all of us, especially as men, we want to say, man, we can take care of this ourselves. Me and God, we got this. I don't have to. My pride's gonna keep me from saying, that I can that I have to have help with something, that I have to go to a group to get counseled, that I have to. That I can't just do it on my own. So I'm just going to try this I'm just going to do this myself, trying to prove that we can control it. Some of the other things that stuck out to me, our pride really has to be shattered, maybe a little at a time, because we will not recover without an admission of powerlessness over the things that try to invade us, of the worldly things that try to invade us. You have to be in community. And then let's see some other things. Most of the time a person feels like I can handle anything, I can fix this by myself without anyone else having to be involved. Addictions do lead to inefficiencies in jobs, dissatisfaction with relationships, and quite often it creates a sense of life that's really not worth living, and there's depression that moves in, and even why am I here? Sometimes we arrive at powerlessness and unmanageability by just losing everything, and there's examples of that in the Bible. I won't go through those, but there's a story, 2 Kings 5:1 through 15. You may want to read, but again, just read the book here, and that'll give you a good understanding. Those are the things that kind of stood out to me in the reading. When you get the book, read it, go through step 1 questions, and we'll move from there. While